The new podcast, In the Shadow of Princeton, starts as the matriarch of a prominent Princeton family is found stabbed to death in her locked basement. Investigators look from a serial attacker to her family to Princeton University students. One hot-blooded investigator sees a conspiracy. Is he way off base, or does privilege let you get away with murder? In the Shadow of Princeton is available wherever you get podcasts, or you can binge it ad-free by joining Wondery Plus in the Wondery app, Apple Podcasts, or Spotify.
Hey Giants fans, this is Chris Franklin from NJ Advanced Media, and welcome to the Talk is Cheap podcast, the show where we discuss all things related to the New York Giants. Before we begin, I want to remind you that you can read our content on NJ.com/Giants, and make sure to bookmark that to get the latest Giants news and analysis. Well, the Giants office went on a missing persons report Sunday night, losing to the Cincinnati Bengals, and we'll get more to that in a second, along with a familiar face that's going to be returning to MetLife Stadium next Sunday. First off, let's bring in Talk is Cheap co-host Darryl Slater. Darryl, how are you doing today?
Hey man, hey Chris, good to talk to you. Interesting game for the Giants on a couple levels last night. Certainly, much different performance from their offense and their defense. We'll get into all that, I'm sure. But and big game coming up this week, so I'm doing well.
It's always like certain dates. You look at the calendar, you start circling, going, "Okay, this is good. This is good." Yeah, this upcoming one's going to be one of those good ones. But before we get to that, we're going to start with our kickoff question. And as we alluded to earlier, the Giants' offense had trouble scoring Sunday night. They did finish with 309 yards of offense, but they only had 7 points to show for their effort. Darryl, what caused the scoring outage last night against the Bengals?
Yeah, I mean, Daniel Jones obviously has significant limitations. I mean, that's the bottom line. I mean, how much more do we need to see here? We know what this guy is, and we know what he isn't at this point. He's a fine enough quarterback when he has the right pieces around him. They obviously did not have Malik Nabers or Devin Singletary last night. The Nabers' absence hurting more, of course, because Tyrone Tracy filled in reasonably well again for Devin Singletary. But, I mean, just a dud of a game from Daniel Jones, 22 of 41, 205, no touchdowns, a pick. He missed on a couple critical throws. He was not sharp with the deep ball. He had a 57.5 quarterback rating. And again, on and on the guy has started 67 games for this team, counting the playoffs. We know what he is at this point. I mean, they're 3-9 in his starts since he got that contract. Obviously, they tried hard to replace him. I mean, that was the biggest issue. Their offensive line did have some hiccups, of course, but again, it gets back to the quarterback, and that's been the problem for this team. Really, the entire time Daniel Jones has been with the organization since 2019, and so this is the end. He's done. He's not going to be the quarterback next year, and so they didn't move the ball that well. I mean, they're one of the worst offenses in the league, and with Brian Daboll calling plays, and that hasn't helped really. Malik Nabers is having a great start to his career. He's obviously 2 games out now with a concussion. He really hasn't helped that much. It's not like they were lighting it up when he was when he was on the field. So they have to do something here. I mean, they're averaging 15 points a game on offense. When you take out defensive and special team scores, I don't think they have a defensive one, but the block punt touchdown in Seattle, and they've had 9 touchdowns on offense in 6 games. 9 in 6 games, including 1 in 3 home games during which they're 0-3. Not sustainable. You're just not going to win really any NFL games playing that way offensively.
Yeah, everything looked to me when I was watching it, I rewatched it today again. Everything looked like a labor in terms offensively. The fact that they had to go for it on five times on 4th down, it just looked like this offense, like they had so much struggles on 3rd down that they had to go for it on 4th down. But 33% in the NFL is not going to get it done at any point. And the fact that they were 5 for 15, even in manageable situations. There's some teams that would love to see more consistently be in that 3rd and short situations, and the Giants were able to do that. Now you can say it's the Malik Nabers injury with a concussion. You can say it's what have you. I look at 2 things. I look at Brian Daboll in terms of why is he not getting his guys in a good position to get a start. Now you can say the personnel, what have you, what he's working with, but I look at that along with the execution that Daniel Jones had. To me, I mean, we hear all this stuff about running quarterbacks and that. To me, he's a running quarterback in a way because his best effective, in my opinion, has been as a runner more than him being in the pocket
No
trying to
doubt.
throw the ball downfield. So I'm looking at this offense. I'm like, you have a guy who's supposed to be an offensive guru who took Josh Allen and elevated that offense. I'm starting to think more and more it was more of the talent of Josh Allen that helped propel the Buffalo Bills as opposed to Brian Dable sort of helping develop when it comes to Daniel Jones. Am I too off base in terms of that?
No, I mean, yeah, I think he certainly deserves credit for what he did with Josh Allen, but I guess it's hard to say, right? It's like chicken and egg type stuff. Is Daniel Jones bad because he's not getting good enough coaching, or is he just bad? Also, they don't have. I mean, this is year 3 of the Joe Shane, Brian Dable regime, and Joe Shane has populated this offense with exactly one feared playmaker, one Malik Neighbors. That's it. Okay, like Wandale Robinson is what he is. Darius Slayton was a Dave Gettleman guy. They did what they did in terms of letting Barkley walk and replacing him with Devin Singletary. I'm not going to get too up in arms necessarily about that because we know the limitations of the running back position. The tight end group remains extremely underwhelming. They totally whiffed in the Darren Waller trade. So Joe Shane has not done enough to help rebuild this offense. Obviously, the line has shown signs of improvement this year, but they don't have. Not only do they not have a quarterback, they have one feared playmaker. I mean, I mean, you saw what the Bengals had an off night last night offensively against a very good Giant defense. Burrow and Chase and Higgins, my gosh, the Giants would love to have anyone even 3/4 as good as those 3 guys. They have one guy who can scare you, and that's Malik Neighbors, and that's a problem. So we'll see if Malik Neighbors is back this week. We'll see if Devin Singletary is back this week. He's got a groin injury. Neighbors, of course, the concussion. They've both missed 2 games. That Seattle win was a resilient win, probably not sustainable. Okay, probably not sustainable. And then Andrew Thomas, the Giants' left tackle, who's probably one of their 3 or 4 best players. He suffered a foot injury on Sunday night, and so he had an MRI here on Monday. We'll see about that. That would be a huge loss because then they would have to figure out, do they want to put Josh Azudu, who's technically the backup left tackle? That would be a recipe for disaster, I think. Or do you take Jermaine Illuminor, the right tackle, move him to the left side? He's played left tackle. I think he'd be fine there, but you know who would be playing right tackle, of course? Evan Neal. And so pick your disaster, right? I mean, do you want to start Josh Azudu or Evan Neal? I think it makes the most sense if Andrew Thomas can't play to move Illuminor over and promote Evan Neal. I think that's the lesser of the 2 bad situations there.
Yeah, that Andrew Thomas injury is a potentially killer,
I
especially
mean, it crushed
not.
their line last year when he had the hamstring in week 1 and they had to start Azudu, and then all of the snowballing that happened with that. I mean, he's the one who gave up the sack in Miami that resulted in the Jones neck injury, and yeah. And then, but again, 3rd round pick, premium pick, 2022, Joe Shane, swing and a miss. Evan Neal, number 7 overall, 2022, swing and a miss on that, big time. And so, yeah, Joe Shane's done some good things in this draft. I think Tyrone Tracy looks like a player, Neighbors. So there's been some success stories coming out of this draft. But anyway, that's sort of where they're at offensively. So they're coming out of a major struggle game, and is there light here coming up against the Eagles defense? I don't know, because they could be down some serious personnel.
Swinging and misses sounds a lot like the Giants front office is a part of doing the Mets and when it comes to their offense in game 1, but it's a lot better. I look at that Giants offense and I think we're going to end it on this note here. I look at that Giants offense. If they have to lose Thomas, the Eagles aren't coming in as world beaters in terms of pass rush, and they did get 5 sacks against the Cleveland Browns, but it's the Cleveland Browns. Everybody gets a sack. I think you're on the top side talking to me right now. I think you just added a sack to your sack total, and you're not even playing with them as well too. So I think that was a bit of a mirage in terms of that. But I look at that, the fact that if you ever have to shift around multiple positions, especially a position like the left tackle where you protect your blind side, with the offense already struggling, you don't want to rattle a quarterback like Daniel Jones, who already has enough issues as it is with his play. That is the least opportune time for something like this to happen. And yeah, safe to say if Thomas can't play, it's going to be an extremely interesting afternoon and on Sunday. Now, I know we touched on it beforehand briefly. Now, I guess or in on the offensive side of the ball here. What are you hearing about Malik Neighbors, and do you think he's going to be available for Sunday's game?
Yeah, I mean, very much TBD. Jalen Hyatt said after the game that this means nothing. I mean, a player saying that he thinks there's a good chance that Malik Neighbors will play means nothing. Like he's like, based on what I've seen, we're hopeful we'll get him back. Okay, well, he's not a neurologist. So, um, and speaking of which, of course, Malik Neighbors went to that concert last week, created a big stir. I spoke to a neurologist. It's like, so does this mean anything? No, it doesn't. It doesn't. It's just optics, and it wasn't great optics, but uh, obviously a concussion, it's time and rest, is one of the main things, and so sometimes these just take time, and it's been 2 games now, so you'd think in the 3rd game he'd have a better chance to return, and if he can't this week, then he'd have an even better chance in the 4th game. I don't it's not like it's getting worse. So it's just a matter of time here, and we'll see what he does Wednesday. He has not practiced at all, since he got this concussion. September the 26th against the Cowboys. And so, that is 2 weeks and 4 days ago. So it'll be 3 weeks on Thursday. And if they can get him limited as a limited participant by Thursday, then that bodes well. If not, if he's DNP the first 2 days, then you're looking at maybe another game without him.
I will say this: if he does come back to play Sunday, I wonder if certain teams are going to find out where Travis Scott is traveling, and then probably make them to go ahead and listen to him, see that way, because that was a little bit of a head scratching thing, having them watch Travis Scott, and you supposedly have a head injury and everything. Not supposedly, you are diagnosed with a head injury. Not thinking that's the right place to kind of be at that situation. So, such is life. Well, who am I to know? I'm not a head expert either, but yeah, not going to go with that. Now we're going to turn our attention to the other side of the ball defensively, and without Kayvon Thibodeau, Brian Burns really became a factor in that defense. He put a lot of pressure on Cincinnati Bengals quarterback Joe Burrow. He finished with a sack and 3 hurries, and he was all over that field, and they needed him in terms of that. I think that's what helped limit the Browns to 17 points in that game. Do you think that Burns himself has what it takes to at least carry that defense until Thibodeau returns? And also, I want to add another question on top of that. Do you think Aziz Ojari has what it takes to fill in for Thibodeau's absence?
Well, I mean, Thibodeau is not even that. He's not even that good. Like, I mean, he's honestly a kind of
Ooh.
disappointing number 5 overall. The guy's been average. I mean, he's been average. That's the verdict on Kayvon Thibodeau is he's not as good. He's shown flashes of being really good, but I mean, the body of work so far is not the body of work you expect from a number 5 overall pick. That's the bottom line. I mean, this year he has a 62 PFF pass rush grade. That's the same as last year, and then as a rookie, it was 67. So not super impressive. Really not super impressive. Now, he was playing well. Dallas, Seattle, 5 pressures in each game. Last couple weeks, those were his best 2. He's got a broken bone in his wrist. He's out 4 to 6 weeks. Slow start first 3 games, came on the next 3. So, yeah, that's, maybe he was trending toward, this is a huge year for him. Huge year. They got to make a decision on the 5th-year option, $16 million for 2026 after this year. So, Ojolari put together a terrific game. 6 pressures, 2 sacks, 4 hurries. A guy who was a former starter, as in last year. I mean, he was bumped out of his starter role by the Brian Burns trade. Now, it's been durability issues for Aziz Ojolari. 2021 second-round pick, a Dave Gettleman guy. This is a contract year for him. So this is an opportunity for him to step in and play a decent chunk of games here. Burns, we all know. I mean, he will have to play out of his mind to justify the contract. Out of his mind. Like, is he going to do that? Probably not. But like, he set aside the contract. He's been very productive. I mean, 5 pressures against the Bengals, 6 the week prior in Seattle. He's got 22 for the year. He had a 6 pressure game in Cleveland. So he has really done well. 76 pass rush grade overall for the year. So he has beginning to really turn it on. I mean, 11 pressures, like I said, the last 2 weeks, and then 8 total the previous 2 weeks before that. So what's that, 19 in the last 4 games after 3 in the first 2. So he has really turned it on lately, and they need him badly. Along with, of course, we know Dexter Lawrence is just an insanely good player. I mean, he is perhaps Right, is he defensive player of the year candidate? I think he's going to be in the conversation, or he should be in the conversation right now. Um, but he's playing out of his mind, and that's a given, right? But they needed more from their edge guys, and they're getting it from Burns. Thibodeau again, underwhelming. Now he's hurt, and so this has all got to be a key because they want to get home and pressure with 4. That's the Shane Bowen model, whatever, MO or whatever you call it. So they've overall played pretty darn good defensively. Pretty darn good. I mean, you look at their points that they've allowed. If you take out, there was the Giants offense. What gave I think it was a pick 6 in week 1 or against the Vikings, and um, yes, and then there was the fumble return against Seattle. So the Giants defense has allowed this season 21, 21, 15, 20, 13, and 17, and then the Bengals got that other 7. It was really 10 when the game was in play. But that's a heck of a stretch. They haven't allowed more than 21 this year, and they're 2-4 somehow. Somehow being their offense is terrible. That's how.
Yeah. Yeah. Just a little bit.
That's the somehow. Oh, somehow. Oh, I wonder why. Oh, it's because their offense is terrible. But uh, so yeah, I mean, I think you got to give a lot of credit to Shane Bowen, and yeah, I think they got Ojulari in there, and he had been playing as a situational guy, but he really took advantage of his opportunity. Again, they're 2-4, so that sort of thing kind of gets overshadowed, but their defense is playing quite well. I mean, they should not be 2-4. I mean, they have the 10th best defense PFF wise, and then in offense they're 24. I mean, pretty tells the story.
Yeah, yeah, and when it comes to Thibodeau, I really thought when he added Shane Bowen, a guy who's familiar with playing off with coaching outside linebackers, I thought it would take a while for a lot of these guys to really get acclimated to the system. He's a new coach, new way of doing things. You know, going from Wink to him. It's a lot different. So I pegged Thibodeau to be around, okay, I want to say week 8, 9, 10, somewhere in that range that he really start comfortable and then he feel naturally. To me, I thought we started to see a little bit more of his talent starting to take over. He wasn't thinking as much. He's really starting to move out to the pass rush as a pass rusher, and we saw what happened there. So I'm looking at it. I thought that was a huge blow in terms of that. And like you mentioned with Ojulari, it was about him being healthy and the best availability. Like if you can't be available on a team, you're hurting him more than that one too. And when I liked him coming out, I liked him coming out of college. I really thought that he was a good guy who, we overhear this so much, high motor, high motor. Well, when you look at that position, I mean, that's where you really truly need it because a lot of sacks just come with a lot of effort. So you got your talented guys where you just wake up and all of a sudden roll like Aiden Hutchinson before the injury. He just rolled out the bed. Next thing you know, hey, he's got a sack and a half already. You look around that way. I look at a guy like Ojulari. I didn't think he's going now. Don't take it the wrong way saying that Ojulari is going to be on the same level as Hutchinson, but a guy who can consistently get pressure, similar to the way that Brandon Graham played the same way Brandon Graham of the Eagles play, somewhere like that. And I look at him, and I'm still waiting to see him take that next step. And I want to see him, and it's going to be tough for him to do that as a backup now. But I want to see. I think he has it in him to have another 10 sack season, an 11 and a half sack season. But the thing is he's always hurt. And
Yeah.
this is the perfect time for him to really step up, really get to go get his snaps. And if for anything, say, you know what, make the decision tough for next. Like, you know what, we got Thibodeau, we got Burns. Maybe another team wants to trade for him. Maybe he plays his way into another situation where he can play and get a bigger spotlight on him. But
Good point.
he
Yeah,
needs
that's
to
a
do
good
that.
point. And then now Burns is going to be out. This was his first missed game because they put him on IR first to the 4, so he's eligible to return at the soonest, November 10th in the Munich game against the Panthers, and then the Giants get their bye the next week. And so if he misses 4 and the minimum 4, then he's back. It's a 4 to 6 week injury. He had surgery. Then he's back in Munich if he misses the 4. If he misses 5, he gets the bonus week, of course, the bye being the 6th week. And that would put him back November 24th against the Bucks. And at that point, the clock is ticking on the season. I mean, that's the 12th game of the season, right? So 12 out of 17 games. Yeah, no, that's the 11th game, actually, of course, of the season because they get their bye week 11. Anyway, so big year for him. He's got to deliver down the stretch once he gets back, whenever that is.
Yeah. All right. Now we're going to go to the showcase event, the event that I think everybody around the league is looking for. The Giants are preparing to face the Eagles at MetLife Stadium, and we could talk about all the matchups that we really want to in this game, whether it's the outside, the cornerbacks versus AJ Brown, Devontae Smith, whether it be the offensive line for the Eagles, no potential not having Jordan Mailata. But everybody wants to watch one thing, and we all know what it is. It's the return of Saquon Barkley to MetLife Stadium. And Barkley, as you all know, he spent 6 seasons with the Giants before signing with the Eagles this offseason. It was well documented in Hard Knocks on HBO. We all also know the reception that Barkley received after he left. And some of those people in the New Jersey, New York area, the burning of his jersey, what have you, blah, blah, blah. Yeah, it wasn't pretty at all. Now, I'm going to ask you two questions here. First off, do you think the Giants will have a way to honor Barkley before or during the game? And second, do you think the Giants players will be emotionally prepared to play against their former teammate who played such a large role in that organization?
I would say there's zero chance that they're going to honor him.
I thought so. I just
I
wanted to
mean,
see
I
you
don't
like
think
you
there's
thought so.
any ill will here. Look, it's a business decision. They let an older running back with an injury history walk instead of paying him big money, which is a win now move. By the way, the Brian Burns trade also a win now move. Giants are not a win now team. So, but they decided, as many teams have, that they don't want to invest at running back. Oh, okay, fine. They essentially did not offer him a contract. They were fine letting him. They were just let him walk. Okay, so what do Giants fans want? Like, you're mad at this guy? He was not going to be coming back here. They didn't want him back. They didn't want him. Now you could talk about the mistake they made. What they should have done in retrospect is tag Daniel Jones for $50 million less than they paid him, and they should have signed Saquon Barkley. That's what they should have done. Okay, then they could have just escaped Daniel Jones after last year, and they could have had a better situation moving forward with a quarterback, an actual quarterback of their future, which they don't have right now. So, but once Joe Shane made that decision to do what he did, and had Barkley play in the tag, it was so obvious that he was going to be gone. It was totally obvious, and so what do you want the guy to do? He's got an opportunity to go get the most money possible. I'm sorry, but like, look, listen, folks, you root for laundry, okay? You're rooting for laundry. The players change, the faces change. All right, that's just how it works. All right, so burn the jersey, fine, do that. But I mean, what do you expect? It's not like he turned down an offer from the Giants that was like $1 million less than what the Eagles offered. Okay, the Eagles gave him an offer that blew away anything the Giants would even consider paying him. Okay, which is certainly the Giants' right because they had so many other holes in their roster. They decided they didn't want to allocate money to what their GM determined, as some GMs have, is not a priority. So yeah, so that's where they're at now. In terms of the guys that are going to have to play against them, yeah, a lot of these guys know him. I mean, Burns is new, obviously, but um, the Giants have couple new guys in the secondary. But yeah, a lot of these guys know him. I think it'll be these guys play against guys who are their former teammates all the time. I don't think. I mean, look, Bobby Okereke, right? Like, who's their middle linebacker? It's not like he is like been a Giant associated with Giants for 20 years. He's been with the Giants for like 2 years. I don't think the emotion will come into it. They know obviously that they have to slow him down, and the Giants defense should be very confident about their ability to handle Saquon Barkley. They were 17th against the run in PFF right now. The Giants are now. Pass rush has been excellent. They're ninth in pass rush. But as you've seen Barkley, right? He's had some very good games, had some hiccups, but and the Browns' production was not great. His production against the Browns, but overall, he's been very, very good, right? I mean, but curious to hear your thoughts on that. But do the Giants miss him? I don't know. I mean, look what the production they're getting from Tyrone Tracy. He's a fifth round rookie. I mean, that's what you should do at running back, not draft a guy second overall and pay him a ton of money if you're not a win now team. The Eagles are a win now team, right? That's why everyone's getting antsy about them barely beating the Browns, right? Because the standard is higher there, right? So anyway, I'm curious to hear that's my thoughts on the Barkley emotions and the maybe some of the strategy that goes into it. But has he lived up to the expectations for you? Has there been some disappointment there? I know he had the drop and
Well, first off, I'll say I didn't think they were going to get the Sarah McLaughlin. "I will remember you" in the pick photo slide. Although I would laugh so much if all I see is Saquon Barkley with a cake or whatever, smiling. "I will remember you. All that stuff. That'd be great. Oh, I wish that. But looking at the way he's been with the Eagles so far, there have been a couple games where he basically has saved them. I look
Yeah.
at that Saints game, especially because if he was on that field, that's another loss. And we're talking about this as bad as the Eagles have played at times. We're talking about this team way worse and looking at a different light. Yesterday, he struggled a bit. I mean, he missed a pass block on a crucial play that led to a sack, and it led to a calamity of things that led to an eventual field goal block. But you see some of the stuff. I think he's not getting enough touches down there with the Eagles. They when they played Tampa Bay, he barely touched the ball. I think he got like something like 10 touches overall. That game got away with them, and I kind of sort of blame Eagles head coach Nick Sirianni and offensive coordinator Kellen Moore, where they just
Yeah,
basically
12
went,
touches. Wow. Yeah.
yeah, is barely. You're looking like, okay, run pass. Oh, Vita Vea's in the middle playing really well. Okay, let's forget about him completely. And you didn't have AJ Brown or Devontae Smith. Okay, it's fine. When I look at this game coming up, the biggest thing that I think Barkley should be worried about is the left tackle Jordan Mailata is not going to be there. And you think of left tackle, you're thinking normally, okay, he's going to protect the quarterback's blind side. All right, what have you. But the Eagles have had some of their most success running the ball to that left side behind Mailata and left guard Landon Dickerson. He's not going to be there. You look at the right side, there's talk that Mekhi Becton could potentially be the left tackle. And we saw what happened
Wow.
last year with the Jets being the left tackle. They may just use Fred Johnson as the left tackle because the offensive line coach, Jeff Stanley, he doesn't like to shift things around. So you look at it now like, okay, where is he going to run? You can't run to the left if you get Mekhi Becton. It's not going to be as effective as it was beforehand. You run to the right, you still have Lane Johnson, but the Giants going to know that. And oh yeah, still got Dexter Lawrence in the middle of that defensive line. And we saw what Vita Vea did to him. Imagine what Dexter Lawrence could do to that offensive line. So it might be a rough game. This might be one of those games where we see Barkley's receiving ability comes out and use a little more. Maybe you put him in the slot a little bit more and try to get him matched up against a linebacker, or you put him out wide against a running back and you create a better matchup for one of those wide receivers. But I remember this before. I forget what sports book it was. And obviously it's not a betting show, so please don't take our things for betting stuff, what have you. But there's an interesting line saying Barkley would have 3.5 touchdowns against the Giants this season. I'm not so sure. I think it's one of the things where you pick where you might fall under because that line is not situated. And I'm pretty sure Shane Bowen is seeing. I know Jalen Hurts handled it yesterday. I wouldn't be surprised if Shane Bowen try to blitz him as well. So my game plan, if I'm the Giants, I'm keeping Barkley in the pass block as much as possible, and I'm just going to stuff the line and say, "Okay, Jalen, beat me with your arm." I think it's not to that point. As much as he's played well this year, I think we're starting to see that.
That's good stuff. Interesting stuff.
Thanks. And now staying on the defensive side, I'm gonna put you in the seat of Shane Bowen. What are you doing to stop this Eagles offense?
Yeah, no, I think it starts with not only Barkley, but like the receivers are healthy now, right?
You got AJ Brown who played
Yeah,
his first
right.
game back, and they both scored
They're both
touchdowns.
back.
Yeah,
So they're both back, and they're both not. They don't look any worse for wear, and so that becomes the issue, as it has been all year, in terms of how does this Giants secondary. I think you feel comfortable about the front if you're Bowen, as you have all year. The issue all along, going back to the spring and the summer, is this secondary is super green, and so can you trust, most notably Deonte Banks, your new number one corner, your first round pick last year, to be the guy? And he has mostly not been able to do that. All right. So, like, his coverage grades this year 47, 59, 46, 55. Played great in Seattle, 87, 60 against the Bengals. Bad. I mean, he's allowed 4 touchdowns. It was all in the first 4 games. Better in Seattle. No touchdowns allowed against the Bengals. And targeted 4 times, though, against the Bengals, gave up 4 catches, 47 yards. Right. So I'd have to go through the where he was in terms of Higgins or Chase, and perhaps Ken as I'm going through this, but you're gonna have to pick who you want him on. You're probably gonna have him on Brown, right? And then you're gonna be looking at a situation where it's Cordell Flott on Devontae Smith, or maybe the third round rookie Drew Phillips in the slot on Smith, because I know they use him right in the slot quite a bit, correct? And
yeah.
so
There was him and
that
Brown.
would be a huge task for Drew Phillips, who has performed pretty well so far. Pretty well for a third-round rookie. He dealt with a calf injury. He's worked his way back, and he was put together. He's got a 79 coverage grade this year. It's good. That's good. And so that's obviously in a fairly limited sample size. Put 148 snaps overall. Again, you're not playing nickel all the time. Also, he's dealt with the injury, but that is going to be a big task for you. Talk about young guys, not just Banks in year 2, but Phillips as a rookie. So that will be the biggest concern, I think, for Shane Bowen. As that again, no different. It's going to be like that probably all year when you talk about what the concerns are going to be, because you feel good about this front. This is all expected. I think these are the things we all said throughout the summer could potentially be issues, have been at times. So as far as the coverage matchup for Banks, as I was going through it, he covered Higgins on all 4 of those targets. And so Higgins got him 4 times for 47 and along a 24. So
Whew.
3 first downs on 4 catches. So not a great night for Banks. Banks has been super inconsistent. He's a guy who had a rough rookie year last year. I don't think the Giants fans should feel great about this kid and AJ Brown. Like, I'm not really going out on a limb there, but you even saw after coming out of the game before the Seattle trip, and that was, of course, the Dallas game. Obviously, I lost my train of thought there, but there was a CeeDee Lamb play where he had the long touchdown catch on Banks, and Banks faded on the play. And we were asking Jerome Henderson, the Giants, usually very candid, and he was in this case, as you'll see, as people know who are listening to this. Secondary coach Jerome Henderson, we asked him, what did you think of how he finished that play? And he basically just ripped the kid's effort. Said I didn't like it. I didn't like anything about it. That was the quote and then I'm paraphrasing the rest, basically saying, you got to essentially, he's saying he had to put more effort into trying to chase CeeDee Lamb down. And so, yeah. And that was about as public a criticism as you'll see from a coach of a player in the NFL, in today's NFL. And so Banks responded with a better game in Seattle. But again, not great against the Bengals. This kid's been super inconsistent. He was a late first round pick. So you're not talking about Sauce Gardner here, but, and look, he's never going to be Sauce Gardner, but that's a high bar. And so that has got to be the concern for all the hype around Barkley. And there will be hype aplenty, as there should be. And he is a challenge. That's the one, I think. AJ Brown, Deontay Banks, and this is going to be all year. There's going to be all these matchups for most of the year. I mean, when they play Lamb again, and some of these other great receivers, Banks has not fared well for the most part. Again, pretty good in Seattle, but for the most part, very good in Seattle. For the most part, he's been an issue, and it'll be overshadowed during the week by all the Barkley stuff. But then, if he gets roasted and toasted on Sunday, I think that will. Oh yeah, by the way, that's an issue. That's that's perhaps why the Eagles won, right? That's perhaps why the Eagles got this defense, cracked this Giant defense. Again, the defense has played great though, so that concern can get lost in the shuffle a little bit because it's been covered up by so much of the other good things they've done defensively, and they've done some very good things defensively, a bunch of good things defensively. So. That's where I think what will keep Shane Bowen up for sure.
And real quick as well too, Eagles are 1-3 in the last since 2021 playing MetLife. Which way are you leaning towards who wins this game?
I think the Eagles will win. I think the Giants fall to 2-5. Their season starts to spiral. The conversation about a midseason firing is back. The bubble wrap Daniel Jones conversation is back, as it should be, because we know they're going to draft a quarterback. This is a flawed but probably desperate Eagles team. What are you going to get from Nick Sirianni? I think he got his, the slap on the wrist or the spanking on the bottom that he deserved from the people above him about how he should comport himself on the sideline and what actually matters when it comes to coaching the team versus, being a pro wrestler. And so, but separate from that, it's just how do they execute, right? Like, I mean, they have not been a particularly well-oiled machine this year, and I think there should be a lot of concerns among people in Philly. Again, middle of the pack offense right now, middle of the pack defense. And so at 3-2, yeah, the standard should be higher because they spent money on a 27-year-old running back. You do that when you expect to be a Super Bowl contender. And that's what people in Philly should rightly expect from this year's group. And coming off the crushing disappointment of last year. And that's why Sirianni is right there on the hot seat with Brian Dable. So I think the Eagles win by, let's see, I don't know. I'll call it 28. I think the Giant defense is going to give up 28, and then the Giant offense you're going to get nothing from them again. I think you'll get 17, but what? You're going to hang a banner for that? You're going to hang a banner for 17 points in 2024 in the NFL? But I think 28-17 Eagles.
Hey, MetLife Stadium is pretty big to hang another banner, so that might be
You don't have
that might be
they
pretty
don't have
possible.
many banners in there, so
You got something. Hey, see, now the thing you have me going now is after you said that comment, I'm scrapping the overtime question I initially had on there to it. You mentioned Sirianni as a wrestler. I'm not sure how hip you are to the current wrestlers. If
not
you had to
current,
say,
older. Yeah.
okay, even if it's the 80s, 90s wrestlers, what have you, if you had to say Brian Dable and Nick Sirianni, put them match them up as wrestlers, who are you putting as why?
Who's gonna win?
Oh, who would be not wrestling but like, who would you compare wrestling, WWE wrestling?
Wow.
How would you compare each
Well, the
one?
Dable one is easy, right? I mean, that's a Bam Bam Bigelow.
I
mean,
like
beard,
it.
bald head. I mean, that's the obvious one, right? Or, yeah,
I was gonna go Big Boss Man with him.
Big
I
Boss
see a
Man.
little Big Boss Man with I see what somebody I can see right now. You have Daniel Jones throws a pick, and he tells you that he told him, watch this read. He throws the opposite way. Just stand there with a baton, just waiting to go like, I told you not to do this. That's all I can see with Dable just going at Daniel Jones. Oh, that'd be fun.
And then who would Nick be? Nick would be
Nick would
I
have
don't
to be
know,
a heel.
wiry, feisty guy, X-Pac from DX, right? Not exactly because he had long hair, right? So it's not exactly the physical appearance being exact there, but yeah.
I could I could see that him or
Nick would fight dirty.
yeah, he'd be a member of DX. He really would be a member of DX. Oh, now Road Dogg. That's what he is. He'd be like Road Dogg. He'd be tagged with somebody, but I can see him being Road Dogg without the dreads and everything.
You look at the picture of Nick with the sideways hat. Oh my god. And like the nodding of the head with the mean mugging. It's entertainment. And so it is fun, and it is fun to see the sideline outbursts from Dable and then this circus stuff from Sirianni. I mean, look, we're not emotionally invested in whether the teams win or lose, but I can certainly understand a fan saying like, enough. This is circus. But we're looking at it. Hey, this is fun. This is what makes it interesting. These personalities are what make covering sports interesting. If everyone was boring and just results focused and militaristic, it wouldn't be fun. This is what makes it fun. But that said, I mean, you got to call out a coach when he acts like a fool and preens around and get jaws with fans. You got to call that out. And so we'll see. He's going to have a very much more unwelcome reception on Sunday for sure.
Oh yeah, it's going to be crazy, and yes, I just honestly I look at what happened, especially yesterday, and this is why I like covering sports. And it's not that we go out and try to seek like we're trying to bait these guys to go that way. No, because if we just look at that, then I think you truly have the true form of analytics. We're just putting ones and zeros into a spreadsheet. Okay, this is supposed to be the outcome. This is what's going to happen. You need personalities in order to get this game going and to draw interest. And good or bad, you got to cover it. It's fun to see that, but yeah, it's never a dull moment around with either teams.
It'll
Well,
be a
Darryl,
fun one on Sunday for sure, Chris.
oh yeah, I can't wait. I'll see you in the press box there. It'll be a lot of fun to see you in person as well too. See Ryan Novozinski as well too, and the rest of the NJ crew. It'll be like a family reunion with South meeting North up front. It'll be good there.
It'll be great
But
to see you,
everybody,
Chris, out there. Yeah.
I can't wait. I cannot wait. I appreciate you being on here. Everybody else, we thank you very much for listening. Make sure you read Darryl and Ryan's work on NJ.com/Giants. They'll have all the information you need for the Giants leading up to this game against the Eagles and the reactions about Saquon Barkley returning. So for Darryl, I'm Chris. Everybody have a good one. See ya.